this is my first time attending this event in person, and I'm really excited to be here. I'm going to be presenting on behalf of myself and my colleagues Frank Brunton and Catherine Belland-Otis. So first I'm going to talk about our ongoing activities that we have as a Paleozoic group at the OGS. Second, I'm going to talk a little bit about our Paleozoic legend and how to use it, and some upcoming changes that we'd like to make to it. Then I'm going to take you through a brief little case study in the Napanee area that highlights why we want to make some of these changes, and hopefully everyone can get on board with them. And then I'm going to conclude with some comments about how the updated mapping feeds into our ongoing updates to the legend and how we hope to modernize our data. Okay, so what is the Paleozoic legend? The Paleozoic, there we go. So most of you have seen this chart before. It's the lithostratigraphic chart of southern Ontario. I'm just calling it the legend because it's a mouthful. Basically, what is it? So this is a chart that illustrates the most up-to-date state of knowledge of rocks in the subsurface and the outcrop belt of southern Ontario. So it illustrates rock type based on the color. It illustrates bedrock escarpments, like which units form the bedrock escarpments. It shows the age of the units, their lateral relationship with one another, and then importantly, it also shows disconformity surfaces, which are missing geologic time. And these disconformity surfaces are very important to identify because they form the key groundwater flow zones and bedrock aquifers through much of southern Ontario. What this chart doesn't show is lateral variation within geologic units. So as an example, if you look at those blue packages at the bottom, you might assume that the Gull River Formation in southwestern Ontario looks the same as the Gull River Formation in eastern Ontario. It doesn't, but we're working on ways to better highlight those changes or those differences. And so we really want to make sure that everybody is using the Paleozoic legend in conjunction with our most up-to-date mapping. So for now, you can find that in MRD 219, which is the compilation map of southern Ontario. But we also encourage you to make sure you look for open file reports and data releases that go with these maps, because there's going to be a lot more information in them that talks about the lateral variability within rock units. And to use an example of the Gull River Formation in the Ordovician, I'm talking specifically about eastern Ontario. These rocks were formed in a semi-arid, low-relief, restricted depositional setting. So because of that, you have a range of depositional conditions happening all at the same time. So you have the supertidal zone with extremely wonky textures in it. You have the intertidal zone, you have the subtidal zone. You can have islands, you can have tidal channels. Each of these are going to have their own different grain sizes, different mineralogy perhaps, and then it's going to get stacked up in the rock record, and we're going to call it the Gull River Formation, but actually it's not all the same. And then on top of that, you can have knobs of Precambrian basement that are poking up and through the sediment. So I'm showing this little map area to highlight this because I think it shows it nicely. In the pink, you have Precambrian bedrock poking up through the sediment. And actually, this example shows how with the LiDAR, we are able to see that actually probably that Precambrian high is a lot larger than it is on our old map. But we have that poking up through the sediment. Then we have restricted marine sediments of the Gull River Formation. Overlying those, we have more open marine sediments of the Bob-Cajun Formation, and overlying that, we have the Verulam Formation. And each of these units is going to be influenced locally in the subsurface by the extent of that Precambrian bedrock high. So think of it like an iceberg. We're just seeing the little tip of it, but underneath it's much larger. And in close vicinity to those highs, you might actually even see the full stratigraphic package. So why are we revising the legend? Quite a lot of work was done on the Silurian and Devonian sections of the legend during the creation of the 3D model of the Paleozoic of southern Ontario. Not as much work was focused on the Upper Ordovician, and it didn't extend into Eastern Ontario. So now we have new LiDAR data, we have new geochemical tools that we can use, and what we're finding in the updated mapping is that I just realized I didn't show the map of where we have ongoing projects. Oops. Anyways, so we're currently mapping in Eastern Ontario, and I'm gonna fix that right now. Sorry, guys. That explains why I was so confused by this. Okay, backtrack. So we have two projects going on in Eastern Ontario, so Ottawa area, and then Paleozoic mapping in Gananoque to Belleville area. So my colleague Catherine is working in Ottawa. I'm working in the Kingston-Belleville area, and then I'm gonna start a new project that goes all the way to Peterborough. And then we have Frank Brunton, who's finishing up work on the Cambrian stratigraphy of southwestern Ontario. So that makes the rest of the talk make a bit more sense. Sorry about that. Okay. Thank you. Okay, so yeah, through our updated field mapping, we are noticing that there are quite a lot of inconsistencies in how the Paleozoic nomenclature has been applied throughout Eastern Ontario. And this isn't because anybody before us did a bad job, it's just a function of a lot of different people working on these maps through a very long interval of time. But now that we have a group of us all working on it together, hopefully we can unify all the nomenclature and produce like one stratigraphic chart for all of Ontario that will include the subsurface and the surface with nomenclature that makes sense everywhere. Okay, so now we're gonna jump into the Upper Ordovician, the part that was not worked on as much in the initial creation of the legend. I know there's a lot of words on this slide, but I wanna highlight the Black River and Trenton groups. And what I want to point out is the black squiggly line between those two. So in the subsurface in southwestern Ontario, we recognize that there is a disconformity or missing time between those two units. If you go to neighboring jurisdictions like New York State, they also recognize the same disconformity. But on our current OGS bedrock maps, we don't recognize it. And in fact, stratigraphically, that disconformity ends up right in the middle of the Bobcaygeon Formation. And then what is even more complicated is that if you dive down into reading the old open file reports and the actual descriptions of the rock units, they're not all the same. So the Bobcaygeon Formation of Ottawa contains a lot more in it than more towards Lake Simcoe. So it doesn't even contain the exact same lithofacies. So we're hoping that by introducing some new stratigraphic names and highlighting the fact that there is a disconformity there, we can better portray what's actually happening. And I'll say here, we are not the only ones to recognize that the nomenclature is an issue. The academic community has been not using the OGS nomenclature for a long time, and they've been recognizing this disconformity as well. So it's not us magically seeing it, we're just trying to upgrade things. Okay, so now I'm gonna do a very quick case study in the Kingston area of why I think it's important for us to highlight this. So if you look at our current map, this is Kingston area, everything is the same color. So that tells us that it is all the Gull River Formation. But in the field, the Gull River Formation can look like a lot of different things. So you get these limestone beds that are very muddy, competent, not fractured. They are very resistant weathering. You can also get dollostones and siltstones that I haven't showed. But you can also get limestone that looks like this. So there is particular units that seem to form these Clinton-Greik features, so deep solution-enhanced fissures. And the actual sediment is a lot more of a colloidal limestone as opposed to a mudstone. And I think that we can actually define this particular unit. It seems to be only occurring at the very top of the Gull River Formation. And I'd like to argue that it's probably representing the top of the Black River group because we know there's a disconformity there, and I think this surface has been preferentially karsted because it stratigraphically lies at that position. And this is the same unit that if you go west to Belleville, forms the extensive cave networks along the Moira River. Interestingly, if you look at our map in Belleville, this would all be Bobcaygeon Formation, whereas in Kingston, it's Gull River. So I think we can probably highlight on our maps that actually this is a separate unit based on the stratigraphic position and the fact that it karsts just like the other one in Kingston area. And then you can identify this same surface in cross sections. So this is a road cut near Kingsford, Ontario, and what I've highlighted here is a 2-meter thick bed representing the top of the Black River group. It has an irregular surface, and above that, I think, is the Trenton group. The type of sediment changes, and geochemically, it's quite different. So this upper Black River group in my study area seems to form a 2-meter thick, massive bed with very, very little silica in it, and then over top of that, you get a lot more variable siliciclastic content. And this is a surface that I see that continues throughout the study area. So on the far left, that is from the section that I just showed you. And I just want to highlight that beneath the red line is that disconformity surface where we have very silica-poor carbonate below and then more variable siliciclastic content above. And I can trace this laterally to Camden East, to a drill hole in the subsurface. So I think it's a real stratigraphic marker that we can follow. And then this is just another example of that same surface. So this is from near Tweed, and I didn't show the Paleozoic bedrock just because there's so many colors already, but this is another example where everything has been mapped just as Gull River Formation. But if you walk through a section up an escarpment here, at photo B, you're at a lower ledge that is kind of tabular bedded limestones with some shalier bits in them. But then you get to the very top unit, and it is a 2-meter thick ledge, and it is extensively karsted at the surface. And then this is just an example how on our karst map, this is showed as a location of inferred karst. But if you go there, you can actually see these very deep fissures. So as the updated mapping comes out, we'll be able to update some of the data points on the karst map. Okay, so to conclude, basically all the new data that we are collecting, we're gonna incorporate that into modifications of this chart. And then that's gonna feed into any future 3D models that happen and ultimately provide more detailed information for responsible land use planning. So I want to pose a question of what would you like to see with the Paleozoic data set? I'll show you one idea that we're working on. This is the Ottawa map sheet that's going to be released hopefully soon, and it'll have a digital map with it that includes all the information about field stations like the geochemistry, hyperlinked photos, all that stuff. But moving forward, who knows? The technology is changing quickly, so we have opportunity to modernize how everything is released. So I'm going to wrap up there, and I'm just going to put a plug out. We are hiring a Paleozoic intern. The application closes this week. So this is a position for like a new grad, so check it out. Thank you.